Hey guys, welcome again to the Ying Yang Podcast. I feel like calling Ying Yang Radio. I'm Dr. Stephen Akintayo and I'm Eizu. Okay, so this is part 2 of Fundamentals of Business. So in part 1, if you listen, go watch it. We just help you to understand the various factors that affect that business. So this part 2, we'll look at the way factors itself, real fundamental pillars. And we're starting with
funding, finance.
Yeah.
People love that word, but don't really understand it.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody wants money.
Yeah.
Right? A lot. Right. However,
I don't get it.
however, for you to build a business that is going to be big, there has to be funding. Whether it's self-funded or externally funded through PE, VCs, crowdfunding, whatever it is, right? So I'm going to explain you some of those fundamentals, but you can't talk about funding without talking about finance, first of all, because finance is how you get funding, right? And you can't even talk about, to a large extent, you can't even talk about finance without talking about books and accounting, and then you can't talk about books and accounting, that whole integration, without really talking about things like pricing, right, and selling, right? So fundamentally, how do you get funding? I think that the first thing first is to assume that you can go a bit far without other people's money. Other people's money is good, but other people's troubles also comes with it, right? So the first step you want to do is proof of concept. I like to say in design thinking, create a prototype first, right? Create a prototype first. You want to set up a smoothie bar, for example, a healthy food bar. Well, first thing you want to do is from your kitchen, you have a kitchen in your house, right? Can you start making zobo, smoothie, juices? Is that process called proof of concept? Share it among your friends, your family. They like it a lot. Maybe the first one was a freebie. If you want to run a business, be open to give free service first, then upskill on that free service, leverage on that attention or that gratitude that they owe you to say, oh, you like this zobo, can I bring it to your office and maybe somebody can buy? If you're smart enough, you can say, oh, I can give you a commission on it. What you're doing now is that you're building traction. So proof of concept first. Proof of concept gives you prototyping. Prototyping gives you access to start earning, and as you earn, the books must be kept. That's where bookkeeping comes in. And how that works is very simple, right? First of all, it doesn't matter what you read in school. Business, the official language of business is account.
I think that the bookkeeping part is it's probably the part 3 of this, right? Because I want us to really break down funding and really how to get fund. I was with the story you shared earlier, incidentally, there's shout out to CW, Pastor Michael Bibi and his wife, if you're watching this. They started the authority to what to do, why, and so they started in January. Wife started it, and today is a multi-billionaire, in fact. So this is real that you have to prove the concept first. The question now is, how do you even raise the initial money for your proof of concept? Because we see people who say, I'm not there. So let's look at the various types of fund, right? We have family and friends.
Let's say start from personal savings,
right? Yes.
Family and
yes, that's true. You start with personal savings, so 1, family and friends, 2, right? Loan, 3, and there are different types of loan. There's institutional loan. There is syndication, where you kind of, and I love syndication loan even more than the institutional loan. And I'll tell you why. If you take a loan from a bank, for example, if you default, they come take over your asset. But if you do syndication so just mean that the crowdfundings are not worth that. You have people who have already tested your product, they know who you are, some that trust you, and then you throw it to the public, right? I need some money to keep growing this business. And if you give me this, I'll give you X as after sometimes may even neglect what you have to give them is higher than what you get with the bank. But these are people who know you, that you can still apologize if anything goes wrong. So give me another 3 months. Right? Business is a bit slow. You won't do that with loans, right? They're just going to go with business and you're dead. Right? So it's important to take, you have grants. Right? It's also another type of funding. Then allow government. Yeah, other government funding as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lower interest government, especially from developmental banks, like Nigerian developmental banks. Some of them can hold you money, but then again, the fundamental developmental banks, African Developmental Bank, for example, works. Like BOI works, NSETF works. That's the same version of funding SMEs, right? But I also about funding. I know it's risky, but not all funds have the same risk categorization. So funding in general can be two. You can do equity financing or debt finance. So not the loan you hear grant. Grants sometimes are grants in fundamental, not supposed to be interest based, sometimes not pay back, right, and all that. So I think that if you take F&F, family and friends, the first place you want to start, that requires some credibility, social capital, and also depending on the background you come from. If your uncles and aunties are always calling for money, you're not to take this family. So that's the thing that in Nigeria, black and I do that
Family and friends can also be church members.
But Nigerian standard, but
the workers, no, in the Nigerian context, right? Family and friends, because I have that. So yeah, such boy I had the people in church that couldn't lie on to support me. That fun. So you should just they just fold your hands and say, my family are coming. Yeah, there's some trenches, the ability where the church you attend, the people who trust you enough to
absolutely, I agree. I'm very personal. I tell you, Joe, right? But I'm doing business. My wife started business a few years ago, and I have a mentor to me that, oh, you know what? Let's play. Say, look, a kingdom's house, a professional business and management consultant, but she might not always want to listen to you because there is a sea fish. I mean, somebody who's having complete every day. You know what? Tell her that the money for the business is alone. Okay, right. So, and I tried it, right? I did it alone, and I will crack the joke about it. I said, I'm going to give you this amount of time. If you don't give back about this time, I'm going to have it as convertible into equity. Okay. Right. And that was by far one of the best decisions we ever made. Right. Because, I mean, in less than 3 years, should be 10 different units. And that's because that actually got converted to equity through. And then now I can have a conversation, not just as a husband, but as an investor. Yes, right. So, and for people who like to close their work and not ask because they don't want to lose ownership, what would you gain? What would you gain if you got on the ownership and the business don't move through anywhere? Because it's not just money that you need, it's what you call smart money. Smart money is money that comes with added value. Yes. Right. So let me give you
because you're consulting for your wife.
Absolutely, I'm not going to charge her for it, right? Now, funny thing you've done, kind of, but you guys see how interesting this is. Yeah. If I'm to give you 200 million naira, and Dangote was to give you 60 million naira, hope you know there is wisdom to collect Dangote 60 million naira and not my 200 million, because Dangote's money is smarter than my money.
Come on.
That's what the smart money is. That 60 million of Dangote, if you ever even go online to say that Dangote is an investor in your business, the way other investors will jump on it, right? You don't. That's not to say I'm a nobody, but the level to this thing, right? Right. And network, his wisdom, his experience, his glory in grace, right? Because one thing I've learned as I grow older is that some people have grace. They do whatever they touch just glitters, and it's very infectious and can be contacted, right? You can pass it on, right? And so I hope this episode did help. But then let's look at institutional investors, because when you start to go through these things, these are all what you call pre-seeds, literally. So after your pre-seed, right? And then you've had a good test of product, people like your product, then you now have a challenge. You have more demand than supply. I call that a good problem. When you have more demand than supply, and I saw this with a lot of my clients, like I mentioned, from the likes of Essenza to Rough and Tumble to iFitness. There was a time in iFitness where you had more registered members than the gyms could. So they knew that they needed to raise. Right. I mean, Cardinal Stone guys came to, and the cycle has been complete. Everybody was happy at that, right? I've seen Felicia, a very good friend of mine, and also more importantly, I've seen him go through different cycles from Yes Mobile, from Smart Era to Yes Mobile to Konga, right, to iFitness, and all that thing he always says that's a good problem. That's a good problem, because now you can go to anybody to say, look, I have more buyers. I have more people that want to buy than I can produce. That's the best time to raise money.
That's true.
Right? Because now you can raise money to expand your factories. And when you raise, they open more iFitness branches. Right? So that's really, at that point, you can now have institutional investors. So that's PEs or VCs.
To make it real and practical, we started real estate development 9 years ago. And I remember I did a pilot test around, this was 2015 by 2018. I tried to get almost 10 investors to give me them. And you believe I lost it. You know, I remember calling them, and this is also important for guests to hear this. Calling them on phone, and begging them to say, the money you invested, I lost. I promise you, I'll pay you back a bit when you're interested. I promise. Give me some more time. Some of course, some comments, and I made sure everybody was paid. I think by the end of 2018 or 2019, all of them were paid. However, down the line, 2021, we're now a lot better. Perfected system. There's achievers. Right, achievers today has paid returns of $5 million to investors. Yeah. And that's humbling to see how the business has been able to do. But the point is, one, and this is a lesson was not forget. If we started raising money, which is what I see with the tech guys, 2015, right? Nobody was gonna give us. We're not even. We just start. But by 2018, we had about 2 years state or so. So by being business for over 2 years, it made sense, which is why we're going to attract those people. But again, that still led you to trouble. And, but ultimately, we're still able to now raise from at the point when we really understood the business, and we knew how to protect investors from this. And until today, we've been doing work with that. I also want to add that what I also had to do was, people don't know that you can technically grow your business or raise funds through sales.
Yeah.
Right. Where you are not rushing to want to get institutional loan, right? All in terms of
that's called bootstrapping.
Yes, where you're just going aggressive, we sell it. The more I sell, the more I put in. The more I sell, the more I put in. Sometimes I tell people, in 16 years of GTS, we've now done profit share. They can't understand. And it's because in reality, you are constantly in the expansion phase, and you never need to loan, except now US expansion, of course, depending, we're going to access a lot of funding for that. But all our Nigerians have never had to take a loan, except when we then started, having syndications. But my argument is that we've always had to use selling. And bootstrapping strategy works. Go aggressive. If I can sell 10 more, if I can sell 100 more, from the little profit of that, I put it back in the business again. I go all in, put it back, go all in, put it back. And you can build a multi-billion corporation just from that.
And the light you're not called that equal for nothing. How high you can soar and how ambitious you can be. And I really appreciate, just before we go, what do investors look out for? They look out for qualitative and quantitative. They do qualitative and quantitative analysis. Qualitative is things that are hard to measure. like your brand, your perception, the market, right, your character, the people behind you. That's why you have like advisory board, right? But more importantly, the accountants, because rich people also have accountants, you have bankers. What they ask for, in the case of institutional investors, they would look at your books, see how many order it is, look at your average selling price in relation to the contribution per unit, right? They want to see what your cost structure is like, what your fixed cost and variable cost, to know what your break-even is. If they see that the break-even of your product comes shorter, right, than the average competitor, they'll put their money in. It means that the business guy churns out right. So I do like I said, this is practically into the examples and I have all the time. So they look at your books first of all. They look at your break-even analysis. They look at your contribution per unit. See, sales is good, but that's vanity, right? What they look at is how it becomes profits. Right. See, how profitable is the business. You tell them you make 10 million. They want to know what is your profit at that time. You made 10 million naira in sales, but you made 50,000 naira in profits. They would rather invest in somebody that made 200k, but the profit was 100k. You see, my man, let me say that again. Somebody made 200 million, right? Or 20 million in sales, but his profit was only 50,000. But another person,
we have the cases where that doesn't apply, like in the case of us, it was always profit. What people get to invest. We have several companies like that. Because also sometimes the measurement is the market share. How you need to get market share. How you
just I was going to get there. I've mentioned listing out what they look for. So the first one, they look for either. So when this is not in existence, this other one,
are you disruptor?
Yes.
Where you just born in cash just to take the market share.
Yes.
So these are factors that.
And you're right. In the case of Amazon, why it made sense for anybody to invest in Amazon was making profit. And the contribution per unit wasn't. There wasn't no break even. Right. Was the fact that they were industry disruptors. They were first movers. Right. And then the energy level of Jeff Bezos. So they look at that. They look at the finance, how it breaks even. They also now look at other things like your internal rate of returns, very technical, right? They look at your IRR, they look at your NPV, the net present value. Because a share investor, whether VC, PE, private equity, VC, at any point, they have a budget. They know what the amount they have. So for example, Cardinal Stone can say this more year want to invest 500, this month is 500 million. When they are talking to you, just say they're talking to like 20 other people, right? Or a Y Combinator, right? Or any accelerator that isn't giving money. They are talking to you to invest, but they're talking to 10 others. They know that they can't invest in all 10. So they are doing comparative analysis. So A, B, C, D, sometimes in the same business. Same business. And I was explaining something to someone. If I'm to invest in any of the 5 biggest banks, First Bank, UBA, GT, and Zenith, right? GT is not the biggest, but I would invest in GT. Just pay me for this, right? I invest in GT more, and the reason for that is because GT was a more efficient business model, and GT is a better disruptor.
Used to be.
Well, in compared to the 5 biggest banks, when Open Money Point and just have a different structure in them.
Used to be.
But in comparison to the 5,
used to be. GT is no longer there. And there used to be a disruptor. I give it to them.
But when you become really big, one of the problems being big is that you lose to be a David and start being Goliath. Remember, the structure requires speed. And when you're that big, just like giants, I mean, a truck can run like a Ferrari, just size. So let's wait for these new banks to become that big. You see the fundamental of we talked about this in another class, but
I mean, guys, so we're done with funding. We'll be back with another key fundamentals. Love you. Bye.